Are you doomed to have low back pain? You might be concerned that because your grandma, your mother, your father had low back pain, they had disc herniations, they were disabled, you're doomed to have low back pain. Or maybe you're worried that based on your job, your posture, your alignment, based on some previous injury that you had, that now you're just doomed to have low back pain either in the future, or maybe you currently have low back pain and you think you're doomed to have it for the rest of your life. Is this true? Is there any truth to that? Well, today we're going to be talking about that. Newsflash or spoiler alert, there's a lot of hopeful research. We are going to explore the research today, and fortunately the research is hopeful that you can modify your risk to have low back pain. But what do you do about it? So today we'll talk about the low back pain epidemic, which it really is. Low back pain is the #1 cause of disability in the entire world. So how can you escape its clutches and make sure that you do not become one of the disabled people from the #1 cause of disability in the world? Then we'll talk about risk factors. What sorts of things are going to predict your risk for developing low back pain? And can you modify those things? So then we're going to talk about prevention. How can you prevent or at least lower your risk of having low back pain in the future? And ultimately, maybe it's too late. It's too late to prevent it for you because you already have low back pain or sciatica. What do you do about it? What do you do about it? Let's get to it. So the low back pain epidemic is a serious concern. It is the #1 cause of disability in the world. You are not alone. If you have low back pain, it's not surprising. It's the #1 cause of disability in the world. By the way, I just want to point out, I always cite my sources here. So at the bottom, whenever you see these little blurbs here, this is a citation for peer-reviewed research. If you ever want to check out my sources and see where I'm getting this information, I'm not making it up. Here's the research. So chronic low back pain, #1 cause of disability in the entire world. What do we do about it? It is chronically mismanaged, right? Surgery is recommended far more often than it is necessary. Oftentimes, surgery doesn't do any better than a placebo, and the cost of surgery is tremendous. If you're lucky, maybe a surgery only costs $7,000. But this study here showed that you could range, depending on the type of surgery, it could range from $7,000 all the way up to $77,000, almost $78,000 per. So QALY is quality adjusted life years. And so what that means is that the cost of surgery is, let's call it $50,000 per quality adjusted life years. And what that means, a QALY, is a year of your life where you don't have pain, where you're not disabled, where you have a good, healthy year. Okay, that's one quality adjusted life year. So you're paying, $50 up to $70,000, $80,000 for a surgery that gets you one extra year on your life that is pain-free. So very, very low quality outcome for a very expensive and risky procedure. I'm not at all against surgery in some cases. Sometimes people 100% need surgery. However, for the vast majority of people, easily 95% of people, this is totally unnecessary. And it's not just the surgery, right? So a surgery, I could have picked a higher number here, really. I could have picked maybe $50,000 for an average. And it's not just the surgery, it's the drugs, the injections, the epidurals, the cost of opiates, the cost of muscle relaxers, which are commonly prescribed even though our evidence-based guidelines tell us explicitly not to prescribe those medications. So then it's beyond that too. So when you have a flare-up, the average time off of work is 18 days off of work, and the cost of that, let's take nice round numbers, let's say somebody has a $100,000 salary, then the cost of 18 days off of work would be about $7,000. Or let's say the salary was $50,000, then you're missing about $3,500 every time you have a flare-up of low back pain and you can't work. So the annual cost of low back pain is almost $50,000. It is a huge problem. This is why it's the #1 cause of disability in the world, is because, it's like your wrist hurts and you can keep working, but your low back goes out, right? You have a flare-up of low back pain and you are out. You are on the floor. You are not able to get to work. You can't play with your kids. You can't pick up your dog. You can't do the laundry. You can't really do even basic tasks, and that's why it's so disabling, and that's why we need to manage it appropriately. So let's talk about risk factors. Are you, obviously with the amount to which low back pain is disabling and the expense of low back pain and the risk of low back pain, you don't want to have it, right? So if you're currently having low back pain, you might be freaking out thinking like, oh my God, I'm gonna have this forever. It's the end of the world. So you might, well, how do we lower your risk? How do we lower your risk? What are the risk factors? What sorts of things actually predict your risk for having low back pain? So let's talk about lifestyle factors. So the first one I'm going to put is smoking. So smoking actually messes with the collagen fibers in the discs and the hydration of the discs and makes it much more likely that you will herniate a disc in your spine. So smoking, I mean, we've known this for a while. Honestly, I walk around on the street and I haven't, when I was a kid, it was really common that you see people smoking. Far less common. I almost never smell cigarettes, and when I do smell them, it's like, honestly, it's baffling to me, that people are still smoking, given the overwhelming abundance of research that shows that this is absolutely not healthy at all in any way, shape, or form. But the fact is, and then people are switching to vaping, right? And they think it's healthier. By the way, it's not healthier. It's not healthier, okay? Maybe a little bit, but I mean, it's still absolutely terrible for you and can lead to terrible lung conditions. Please, for the love of God, stop smoking. And by the way, quick aside here. If you're smoking and you're having a hard time quitting, I totally understand. Before I became a doctor, I had chronic pain, okay, panic attacks, anxiety attacks, chronic pain, and alcoholism, because that was how drugs and alcohol were how I numbed my pain, all right? I get what it's like to be addicted to something. So I'm not at all saying, oh, I'm up here on a pedestal and, oh, I can't believe you're smoking. It's not like that. I have been there. So if you need help and you want help to move forward with healthy habits, reach out. I'm here to support you, okay? Anyway, smoking, obviously not good for low back pain. Overweight. So this one's controversial, so don't shoot me, okay? This is not, I'm just presenting what the research says, and that is that being overweight is correlated with increase in low back pain. But I want to clear up a myth, okay? This is not saying that necessarily the weight is actually increasing the stress on your bones and joints and wearing out your joints. That's not actually what's happening, okay? I think the reason we see this correlation is because if you are overweight, you are more likely to be sedentary, which is this middle, box here. You're just more likely to be sedentary. You're more likely to be eating foods that are highly inflammatory, that lead to increases in pain. You're more likely to be deconditioned, that your muscles aren't as strong, your bones aren't as strong, your ligaments, your joints, your cartilage isn't as strong, right? So please do not mistake me quoting research here that says that being overweight is a risk factor for low back pain as being fat phobic. Not at all. Every single person, regardless of weight, size, shape, color, ethnicity, gender identity, everything is deserving of love and respect and equal protection under the law and all of those things. But being overweight is a risk factor for low back pain. So, I think this is probably why, is being sedentary. So just moving too little in your life. If you don't move enough throughout your day and you sit for the majority of your time, your muscles, tendons, ligaments, bones, joints, cartilage, everything just gets weaker. And so you can't handle as much of the physical stressors that life throws at it, right? If you're sedentary all the time, and then you go from being a couch potato to having to move that couch, which is, 150 pounds. Well, when's the last time you picked up something that was 150 pounds? Obviously, you're gonna hurt yourself because you're not prepared for it. But it's funny, because here's the deal. It's the opposite is also true. So manual labor jobs are also a risk factor for chronic low back pain. So whether we do too little for too long, or we do too much forever with no breaks, with no rest, no recovery, either one seems to be a risk factor for low back pain. So don't be a couch potato. Make sure you move your body on a regular basis. And if you do have a manual labor job, please take rest days where you don't physically work. Please take rest days to physically recover. So some people need to move more and get stronger. Some people then need to take some breaks, right? And then the last risk factor is in terms terms of lifestyle here is low job satisfaction. If you're unhappy at your job, right? Because that leads to really the next slide, which is psychological risk factors, okay? So this is a really interesting one because you might think that the physical risk factors are more important. Like if we had an MRI, one person has a disc herniation and the other person does not have a disc herniation, and you asked me to predict which of these two people has low back pain, but then you told me that the person without the disc herniation has depression and the person with the disc herniation did not have depression, I would put my money on the person with depression having low back pain, not the person with the disc herniation, because statistically, they are more likely than to have low back pain than a person with a disc herniation. So these are really weird and interesting facts, but this is just the truth, right? The other thing that's a huge risk is being afraid of re-injury. If you interpret your body as fragile, if you've been told that if you bend your spine, you're gonna hurt yourself, if you've been told that if you ease into, if you do this movement or that movement, if you do things wrong, you're going to hurt yourself. You're going to be afraid of doing exercise, which means you're not going to get better because you're not going to get stronger. So it's really important to overcome the fear of re-injury. And then that leads to the last part, which is being pessimistic of the outcome. If you do not believe you can heal, if you believe that you are doomed to have low back pain forever, then you are more likely to have back pain. Right? However, if you believe that, if you do get low back pain, that you can overcome it, that you can recover, that you can heal, if that is your belief, you are more likely to actually heal. So your beliefs absolutely have a tremendous impact on your prevention of low back pain as well as treatment of low back pain. So you might be noticing I did not put in here posture. I didn't talk about posture. I didn't talk about alignment. I didn't talk about muscle imbalances. I didn't talk about pelvic tilt. I didn't talk about leg length inequality. I didn't talk about lower cross syndrome, scoliosis, any of those things. So you might think, well, what about those things? Certainly having bad posture is a risk for low back pain. Certainly having a scoliosis is a risk for low back pain. Certainly having a tight hip flexor or tight psoas and weak glutes is a risk factor for low back pain. Nope, not at all. So I could have easily quoted, 10 more studies. I think this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever. I've got a ton of studies that I'm citing here, so just know that I'm not making this up. I know that everybody's telling you that these things are the absolute end all be all, and that if you have bad posture, you're doomed to have low back pain forever. If your leg length is unequal, if your muscles are too tight and imbalanced, you're doomed to have low back pain. And that is absolutely not evidence-based. Here is tons of research, and I could share tons more, that none of this stuff actually predicts low back pain. It just doesn't. Some of these studies show a really, really weak correlation between things like, posture and pain, or a scoliosis and pain, depending on the severity. But ultimately, it's either these studies tend to show a very weak correlation or no correlation at all. So don't be too concerned about your posture, alignment, muscle imbalances. There are way more important risk factors that you need to modify, right? And if thinking about perfect alignment prevents you from exercising in the first place, then you're going to be not doing the one thing that makes the biggest difference with low back pain, which is move your body more often on a regular basis. So now let's talk about prevention. Okay, so we talked about the risk factors for low back pain. So how do you prevent low back pain from happening in the first place? Whether that's you've never had low back pain and you just want to make sure that you don't, or you currently have low back pain and once you do feel better, you want to make sure you never have it again. So how do we prevent it? Well, it's all the stuff we just talked about. We just reverse all the risk factors, right? All of the risk factors are things that you can control, right? We can control how much we exercise. And I know it's not sexy, it's not easy, it's not a magic pill, it's not just a quick fix, it's not something you rub on your back and, oh, there we go, we prevented low back pain. But the fact is, none of those things actually work. The only thing that really works to prevent low back pain is to stay strong, stay active, obviously with rest days and recovery days, because we talked about manual labor is a risk factor for low back pain. So not doing too little for too long and not doing too much too soon. That's the idea, but move your body. And the other factor here is managing the psychological risk factors. So take some time to de-stress, meditate, do meaningful activities, spend time with, if you have kids, spend time with your kids. If you have a partner, spend time, with your spouse, meaningful time, right? Quality time. All of those things are going to modify your risk to have low back pain. So if you want to prevent low back pain, you've got to modify the things that are in your control. And stress reduction is in your control. You can learn how to regulate your nervous system so you're not chronically in fight or flight nervous system. Because here's the deal. Sometimes when I talk about stress, people are like, okay, you fucking hippie, like, so yeah, sure, stress is causing my low back pain. Okay. Dude, stress is the top causes of death in the United States are stress-related illnesses. Stress has a physical impact on your body, right? It raises your blood pressure, it raises your heart rate, it leads to all kinds of cardiovascular diseases, heart attack, stroke, metabolic disorders, diabetes, kidney failure, eventually, like even autoimmune diseases and cancer are linked to stress. So if stress can have an influence in the production of cancer and autoimmune conditions and heart attacks and stroke, you're telling me you don't think that stress could cause low back pain? Get out of here. You're kidding me. So absolutely, stress can make your muscles chronically spasm. You never let go. You never relax. You get less oxygen to the tissues, causes hypoxia. You're fearful, so your muscles are always protective. Stress, absolutely, big player. And then the last aspect here, again, for prevention is do things that are meaningful in your life. If you can, try to find a job that you find fulfilling. Try to find people that you can surround yourself, that you find that time to be fulfilling and that they make you happy, right? Do things in your life that make you happy. Don't put off all of I'll do all the things that make me happy after I do, whatever, build an empire, make $1 million, whatever it is. Once I'm 50 and I'm too old and too disabled from low back pain and sciatica and multiple surgeries to actually do anything about it. So don't put that stuff off. Make sure you schedule time to do things that make you happy in your life, okay? And then, like I said, smoking, drinking, I'm completely sober now because, like I said, when I was dealing with chronic low back pain, neck pain, panic attacks, anxiety, headache, like I would get all of it. I had really bad chronic pain and I would drink myself nearly, I almost should have died. I should have died. My blood alcohol content, I'm not making this up, was 0.6 something rather. So, but it was 0.6 something, right? So at 0.4, people start dying. So I should have died from alcoholism, but now I don't drink at all. Alcohol is super inflammatory. It's absolutely poison for your body. I'm not shaming you. I'm just letting you know, like, it's definitely not helping the low back pain, I promise. Even though for me, I did find temporary relief with drinking, but then it made things way, way, way worse long term. So don't smoke, don't drink. If you do drink, please just be reasonable about it. And those things are the best prevention there is, right? Exercise, stress reduction, meaningful things in your life, get some fulfillment, and don't smoke, don't drink, don't eat shitty food, don't just eat candy all the fucking time. Those kinds of things matter, right? It takes discipline. It's not easy to change your life like that, but you have control to do it. So if you're super motivated, then you can do it, all right? So now let's talk about management. So what do you do about the low back pain if you have it currently, right? So really, if you have low back pain right now, the best thing that I can tell you is this, the cup analogy. What causes that pain? Why are you having pain? Basically, what we have is we have a cup. The cup fills up with stuff. All right, that could be biological stuff like overtraining, right? You're doing too much exercise too fast. It could be psychological stuff like fear, stress. Poor sleep is more of a biological thing, right? Junk food, right, is more of still a physical thing, but not like your muscles, bones, joints, and stuff like that. Crappy food can make is just highly inflammatory, and that's going to make your nerves more sensitive, and you're more likely to have pain. So basically, we've got biological, psychological, social factors that can fill up the cup, and if it overflows, then you're going to have pain, you're going to have sickness, you're going to get sick, you're going to have an illness, you're going to have a disease, something has got to give because your cup can't hold all of this stuff that life is throwing at it. So you got to figure out what is in your cup And then you got to build a bigger cup, right? So take stuff out of the cup if you can, take some stuff out of the cup. But you have to identify it first and then build a bigger cup. Building a bigger cup is strength training, making your body physically more resilient so you can handle more physical stressors. It's building better stress relief mechanisms, right? Breathing, meditation, healthy exercise, right? Healthy coping mechanisms so that we're not just walking around chronically in a fight or flight state, right? We need to regulate our nervous system. So we can't just be walking around in fight or flight all the time. So we've got to build a bigger cup, all right? So the trick here is, one, it's really hard for people on their own to actually identify what is in their cup, because sometimes it takes an outside observer to say, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? And you might think, I have no idea why. I have no freaking clue why I had a flare-up the other day. I don't know, right? But if we get to talking about it and we really put the pieces together and we connect the physical portion with the mental and emotional portion, with the people and places and things, and we connect all those dots, 9 times out of 10 with the patients that I work with, they immediately are like, oh my God, absolutely, I see how that could have caused a flare-up. I get it. I mean, it sucks because I'm in a lot of pain, and but now I get why I had a flare-up, right? So prevent it, to get out of the flare-up, now we gotta take stuff out of the cup and long-term build a bigger cup, okay? So it's tough to do that, which is why I offer, I work with people all the time, both locally and internationally, nationally, to heal from chronic low back pain and sciatica without drugs or surgery, right? That's why I created the Beyond Back Pain 12-week Rapid Healing Intensive, to take out all the guesswork, right? The program is amazing. We do a custom program. I write your exercise program. So I give you a fish. I give you unlimited chat support to ask all your questions. We do educational course so you understand the science of pain and can take care of yourself for the rest of your life. So I give you a fish, write your program, teach you how to fish so you don't need me long-term, and then offer accountability and group coaching calls so that you can actually have community and get your questions answered. If you ever want, I work with people, like I said, online all the time. This is the Beyond Back Pain Discovery Call I want to offer you. Just in case you didn't know, I do offer a free discovery call where we talk about your pain, we figure out what's going on, why whatever you've tried hasn't worked, and ultimately give you a long-term solution and next steps, okay? It's free, and I guarantee that my promise to you is that I'm going to help you on that call. I'm not trying to push you into the program because you might not be a good fit, and if not, I promise I'm still gonna help you regardless. So let's recap. So low back pain is the #1 cause of disability in the entire world, okay? So are you doomed to have low back pain? Because most people do end up having some low back pain at some time in their life. Are you doomed to repeat that? Well, not necessarily. We'll get into that, right? So the annual cost, it's huge. It's a huge problem. Of course you want to avoid it. The annual cost of low back pain is easily around $50,000, right? Between surgery, drugs, medications, injections, time off work, all right? Missed opportunity for income. All of these things add up like crazy. You're talking about, you have a $50,000 a year problem on your hands when you're dealing with chronic low back pain and sciatica, so you gotta fix it. The risk factors that you control, this is the big thing here. Weight, smoking, stress, not moving your body, being too sedentary, or the opposite, which is always moving, heavy labor without any breaks. All of these things are risk factors for chronic low back pain. So what do you do to avoid having low back pain? What do you do to not be doomed to have low back pain in the future or for the rest of your life? Well, you've just reversed those. We exercise, not too little, not too much. We de-stress, we learn to regulate our nervous system. We find fulfillment in our life. We do things in our life that are meaningful, right? And we take a holistic approach. Movement, meditation, sleep, stress management, healthy food. Those are kind of the pillars that hold the house up in terms of treatment and prevention for low back pain and sciatica. So if you want to prevent it, you are not doomed. Just because your mother had it, your father had it, everybody that you know has a disc herniation, you got bad posture, you got bad alignment, who cares? That stuff is not a nail in the coffin. It is not a life sentence to chronic pain. It does not guarantee you're gonna always have pain forever and you can never escape it, right? Because you can modify these things. You can take the bull by the horns. You are the hero of your journey. You can slay the pain dragon 100%. You have the ability to do that with a little bit of education, support, guidance. You can be the hero of your journey and reclaim the active life that you love. Questions in the comments. I'll see you in another episode.